Hello, welcome to this new tutorial, and now let's buy our altcoins. So as a reminder, we're now making a function so that we can get the buy altcoins action in MyEtherWallet, and exactly as what we just did for getting the equity in altcoins of an investor, we are going to make a new function here which we'll call buy altcoins, and which this time will not return anything, but will update three variables right after the investor buys some altcoins. And these three variables are, first, the equity in altcoins of the investor, second, the equity in dollars of the investor, and third, the total altcoins bought, which is, I remind, the total number of altcoins that have been bought by the investors. Because indeed, as soon as an investor buys some altcoins, well, this variable is updated and it is increasing because some new altcoins were bought. Alright, so buying altcoins, let's make this function. And we start with function. Function, then we need to give a name to this function, which we'll call buy altcoins, very simply. And then this function will take actually two arguments this time. First, the address of the investor, because it's actually the investor that will call this function to buy some altcoins. So we need to specify here the address of the investor, but keep in mind that address here is the type of the variable and investor is the name of the variable. So that's the first variable. And then the second variable will be, well, how much dollars the investor wants to spend to buy the altcoins. That is basically how many altcoins does he want to get, but with US dollars. So the second argument here will be the USD invested, but again, we need to specify the type just before the name of this variable. And the type of this variable is an unsigned integer, uint, and the investor is not going to spend billions of dollars to buy the altcoins, so we can take the simple uint with 32 bytes. So uint, USD invested, we have our two arguments, perfect. Now we're just going to specify exactly like before that our input variables are external, because indeed these are not intrinsic to the contract. And now, guess what we have to do? Do we have to open some new brackets here? No, that's the trick. There is a tricky thing to do here. We must apply the modifier. Because remember, we need to check first if this investor here can buy the altcoins with the money he wants to invest. That is with his US dollars. And to check this, well, we'll of course apply our modifier. All right? And so now the question is, how do we apply this modifier here? How do we link it to this function? Well, that's exactly the next step here. Just before we open the brackets, we need to call our modifier here just this way, can buy altcoins. So that's our modifier. Remember, we called it can buy altcoins. And of course, we input what this modifier is expecting as argument, which is exactly the USD invested by the investor, which is already an existing variable of this function, because simply it is the argument of the buy altcoins function. So what I can simply do here is just take this USD invested without taking the type, because the type is just used when you declare a new variable, but this was already declared, and therefore we just need to paste that here. USD invested, and now we are allowed to start implementing the function. So pressing enter, I get my closing bracket, and now we're definitely ready. Okay, so as I said at the beginning of this tutorial, this function is not going to return any value. It's just going to modify some variables. Remember, these are the equity in USD of the investor, the equity in altcoins, and the total altcoins bought. All right, so let's start with the equity in altcoins. So to update this equity in altcoins, well, simply we must increment, we must add to the current equity in altcoins of our investor. So here I just took my mapping again. This is my mapping, and this is the argument of the mapping, which is the address of the investor. So that basically gives me the equity in altcoins of our investor here. And so that's exactly the variable that we need to update right now. And to update it, what I want to do is add to this equity in altcoins, well, the altcoins bought by this investor when he pays this amount of US dollars. That is, this USD invested amount of dollars. And so what we exactly need to add to the equity in altcoins of the investor is this amount of altcoins this investor could get by spending this amount of USD invested. And so let's call this number of altcoins bought. And now we are going to define exactly what this variable will be equal to, which is, of course, the USD invested by the investor, that is, the amount of money paid by the investor, times, remember, we have our USD to altcoins conversion rate. The USD to altcoin conversion rate allows us to go from USD to altcoins. And therefore, since here our investor spent USD invested dollars, well, to get the number of altcoins this investor could buy with his dollars, we simply need to multiply this by this rate here, USD to altcoins. And therefore, let's just take this, USD to altcoins, copy it, and let's paste that here, so that we get our altcoins bought, and here the equity in altcoins is well incremented. However, let's not forget that altcoins bought here is a new variable that wasn't declared anywhere before, and therefore this is the first time we declare it here. And when you declare a new variable in Solidity, and that comes from C++, because Solidity was inspired from C++, well, we need to declare the type here, which is an unsigned integer. You int again, and there we go. Now to get rid of this, we simply need to add the semicolon. All right, and that updates our first variable, the equity in altcoins of the investor. Now let's update the other variables. So the second one was the equity in dollars, and the third one was the total altcoins bought. So let's start first with the equity in USD. So that's why I'm copying this, because the equity in USD is simply the mapping equity USD taking the investor's argument, the investor address. So that gives us the equity in USD of the investor. And now, how do we update the variable the right way after the investor buys the altcoins? Well, simply what we could do is update it this way. We can take our equity in altcoins of the investor, which is exactly this, and paste it here, and then divide it by the USD to altcoins conversion rate, that is 1,000. Because indeed, since $1 equals 1,000 altcoins, well, in order to convert your altcoins into dollars, you just need to divide your altcoins equity by 1,000. And that's exactly what we just did here. All right, and let's not forget the semicolon. And there we go, we have our second variable updated. Good. Now let's update the third one, that is the total altcoins bought. So try to guess how we have to update it. It's actually very simple. Well, very logically, the total altcoins bought is the total number of altcoins that have been bought by all the investors. Right now we're dealing with one investor, which is this one. And therefore, right after this investor had bought his altcoins with this amount of dollars, well, that means that some new altcoins were bought. And this number of new altcoins bought is exactly what we got here with this variable altcoins bought. So that's why I'm selecting this and copying it, because now I'm going to use it to update the total number of altcoins bought by the investors the following way, by simply incrementing it by this number of altcoins bought by this specific investor. All right, we just add up some new altcoins that were just bought to the total number of altcoins that were bought by all the other investors. Great, let's not forget the semicolon, and we are done with the function. The red flag just disappeared. All good, we're ready to move on to the last final function of this implementation, which is the function that allows the buyback option, or in other words, allows us to buy the altcoins back. All right, so let's do this in the next tutorial, and then I guess we'll be ready for the demo. Until then, enjoy blockchains.